Hello, welcome to TEC Bike Parts 2-to-1 high-level exhaust fitting video. We've been asked quite a bit to make a high-level exhaust. We currently make 4 different exhausts for the Bonneville range, for the Bonnevils, the Thruxtons and the Scramblers. But more and more people, particularly with Scramblers, wanted a shorter, lighter stainless exhaust. So we decided to make one, but we also made it so it would fit all the bikes on the range, including the SC, the T100, the Bonneville and the Thruxton. So we're going to show you how to fit it onto a Thruxton because it's the most stock bike we had lying about in the workshop, and to give you an idea how much it changes the bike. The one thing you have to do on the Bonneville and Thruxton is to either remove the side panel or fit a shorter side panel, because the exhaust is tucked in quite a bit and you'll need to do something with the side panel, either cut it down or modify it or whatever. We make a pair of short side panels at £80 a pair that will allow you to fit this exhaust. A couple of things before you start taking the system off. What we found on bikes that haven't had the exhaust changed for a while is the studs tend to stick in the head. So what I like to do is give these a good soak in the day before with Plus Gas or WD-40, just something so that they're going to come out without too much trouble. I would also recommend buying 4 M8 exhaust studs and nuts and washers, because the old ones will probably be pretty manky and you want to put them back in again. So I'm not going to bore you too much with taking the system off, but what I will do is show you what you get in the package with the new 2-to-1. So this is what you get in the kit. You get a silencer with the mounting bracket and your nuts, bolts and spacers. 2 front pipes with machine fittings to go under the head. They're a nice tight fit, so you get a good exhaust gas seal on those. Very tight fit. Centerpiece, all your gaskets, fitting springs. You also get lumbar sensor plugs and washers for carburetor bikes. You'll need to fit those in if you don't have an AFI bike to bung those up. If you have an AFI bike, they're quite handy because you can use them to bung off your air injection system. As you can see, the pipes are all hand welded, designed by us and handmade. So that's the exhaust system off the bike. I'm not going to bore you with taking that off. That's been covered in lots of other videos. So what you need to make sure is that you've got the old gasket out of there, and if there's any corrosion or carbon in there, give it a good scrape and clean out before we put the new gasket in. Now that's the flange that you get to mount the exhaust on. It's got a thick flange on the inside and thin part where the exhaust fits onto on the outside. You fit your gasket, your new sealing gasket against there. And what I would also recommend is you get one of your mounting springs and hook it onto one of those small holes, and it's the top one that you need. These brackets are universal to fit either way up, but you need to hook it on from the inside and then onto there. The reason you need to do that is it's very difficult to get in to do that whilst it's on the bike. So the good thing about these is you can put your finger through to locate the gasket. So just slip that onto the studs there. You don't need to use any sealer because the gasket seals up. And put your nuts on. Like I say, if you're going to replace your studs and nuts, this is the time to do it. It saves something to take the exhaust system off at a later date. It's well worth spending a few pounds just buying some M8 studs and nuts and washers. If you can't get them from a bike dealer, if you go to your local car exhaust fitting centre, it's a common automotive size for exhaust studs at M8. They're bound to have them on the shelf because they fit them all the time. Now it's very important that you don't nip these too tight. Just nip them up so they're touching the gasket, and you can feel to make sure the gasket is seated centrally on the inside there. That's just touching, and make sure the spring is nice and free and not jammed. Now, if you over tighten these now, what will happen is you'll distort this flange out of shape and the pipes won't go in, because a couple of millimetres here is about an inch at the end of the pipe. It throws it out that much, so I just want this nice and loose and central so we can get everything built up. Right, we'll repeat that on the other side and then come back and do the next stage. Right, now for the fitting of the pipes. Now this is where it's handy that you've left the stubs a little bit loose, because it's really tight to get in here and you need just a little bit of jiggle. First of all, you fit the one with the long bend in. That's your left hand front pipe. Now at this stage you don't bother fitting any springs, they're quite a tight fit in the stubs anyway. Just push that in as far as you can. Now the left hand one goes to the top into the collector and the right hand one goes into the bottom. And this is really tight. You need to get the left hand one in a position where you can just jiggle this, but it will go. So this is why we leave these stubs loose so you can get in there. You see, I've just pushed that up a little bit and it's gone in. Now this is a stage where you should have fitted the lambda sensors if you've got an AFI bike. Obviously I haven't done that on this one, it's just got the bungs in. Now you can actually get to the bungs to tighten them up afterwards if need be, or the lambda sensors put them in, but it's normally easier to put them in first. So what I would suggest as well, before you start putting the bike together, the pipes together on the bike, is to just assemble the exhaust system together up on the ground and just make sure none of these pipes have a nick in them. Sometimes they just get a little ding in transit. Just make sure everything goes together. They are pretty tight, particularly the front pipes, because they're designed to heat seal. So again, we just jiggle the intermediate pipe on, which it will just be a nice tight fit together. You can see it's starting to come together there now. It's really tight to the engine. Tucks away under the carburetor even there now. Now I've already assembled the spacers and the bracket on, but I haven't tightened it up, so it gives you a little bit of movement so you can have a bit of jiggle with it. Right, so we're ready to start fitting the silencer. Now all the front exhaust seals are designed to heat seal, so that expand seal, so when they get hot, the hotter part is on the inside, so it expands and seals the joint, so therefore they're very tight tolerances. This one is not such a tight tolerance, so it needs some sort of sealant on it. I normally use high temperature silicon, which is what Triumph use on their silencers. So you just put a little bead of this inside, and ideally what you want to do, I'm not going to show you how to do it here now, just put a bead in and let it semi-cure before you fit it, and you'll get a better seal then. And you also need to remember to let it fully cure before you start the bike up, otherwise it'll just blow out. You put a nice ring, nice bead of silicon in there. And we slip the silencer on. Washer and spacer at the back that we supply. Notice I've left the back mounting loose as well, so you can get everything nicely lined up to where it wants to be. And this bracket's designed to swivel a bit so you can get it right into place there. So we'll just lift this all up a little bit. Tighten it right up, just nip it up for now. And now we fit the spring. It might sound pretty obvious, but make it so that the sharp end of the spring is on the inside so you don't catch things on it. It's a nasty hole in your skin, one of those, if you catch it. You can use a spring hook for this, or I I tend to just use a pair of long nose pliers. Again, so make sure these are hooked in. No, you can see it's fairly clear there, but we do have wiring and fuel line, brake line behind there. Also you've got fuel around here, so make sure everything's clipped away and you've got at least a decent air gap between the exhaust and side panels or anything plastic, anything that might melt. Same with the alarm sensor wires here, make sure they're clipped up well out the way of anything that might melt them on the exhaust, because this does get hot. So don't, make sure don't take a chance with anything burning through. So just hook these front springs up now. That's the exhaust all in place, so all we now do is tighten these swivel bracket ones up, tighten that up, and tighten your 4 header bolts up, and leave it to cure for a bit. So that's the system fully installed there now. I'll just give you a quick walk around so you can see everything on it. Now the shields are supplied fitted, but they're not tightened, so you make sure you need to tighten those up before you use the bike. And obviously go around and check everything to make sure all these mounting bolts are all tightened up. But as you can see, it gives a great sort of screech scrambler look. And it's really well tucked in, so I can show you from the top here. It doesn't stick out any more than the engine really. It's so much shorter than most 2-to-1s on the market as well, because it ends at the shock. Most 2-to-1s actually come past the shock. So I'll let you hear it now. This is with the baffle in.